Appropriations. With that, I am going to, and I should say we do have a quorum. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Ingebrigtsen to chair.
Madam Chair, welcome to the committee. Please state your name and move forward on Senate File 4563.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. Members, we have the A3 amendment that I'd like to, it's an author's amendment, I'd like to incorporate into Senate File 4563. Hopefully you have that before you.
Senator Rosen, would you like to discuss it or just go ahead and get your bill in order?
Just get my bill in order. Thank you.
Senator Rosen offers the A3 amendment to 4563. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? If you're unmuted, all in favor, say aye.
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 Same sign.
Aye.
The motion carried. Senator Rosen, your bill is in order.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, I'd like to start off about what we saw from the MMB and Dr. Kolumbakitis, not only yesterday, but on Tuesday, their budget projection, and we're facing a $2.426 billion deficit. So we have to be very careful about our spending and spend responsibly and budget wisely. The Minnesota received a total of $2.186 billion from the federal government through the CARES Act. 317 of that went directly to Hennepin and Ramsey County, and they already have their money. And the allocation from the federal government that went directly to the state is 1.869. So members, the way we've been looking at it in finance is a three-step process. And our first step was when we received some guidance from the US Treasury on how the money can be spent. The Senate wisely already passed a bill creating legislative oversight and control of that fund. And that was just, I believe, last week. This bill, Senate File 4563, is the next step in trying to utilize the federal dollars wisely and address the budget deficit that we are facing. This bill changes the funding source for already appropriated expenditures related to COVID-19 from the general fund to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the CRF. The changes in the funding source of this bill have been thought through for each individual expenditure, ensuring that each fits into the federal guidelines for spending these funds. And this is the first step in utilizing the federal funds, a very logical and sensible step. So we, with that, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Nauman to march through the A3 amendment that we just adopted, and we'll be going through the bill also. And we will be putting up that information on the screen, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Nauman, welcome to the committee. Please proceed.
Good morning, senators. Just want to make sure a sound check that somebody tell me that you can hear me first. I can see some fingers up and nods, so thank you. Good morning. I would like to, I think, conceptually talk first about some of the terms, because as the COVID pandemic has washed over the legislature, so has the new use of a variety of different terms. And I think it would help the conversation moving forward just to make sure that we're on the same page with what we're talking about here. There's going to be two funds that we will, well, really three, but two that we will talk about primarily. One is called the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund, which has been loosely referred to as the governor's money, as the COVID fund. I think for the purposes of this conversation, I will use that. I will refer to that as the COVID-19 fund. And that's the money that was enacted in Chapter 71 that transferred from the general fund originally $200 million into that fund, and then was provided flexibility in use to the executive branch with oversight of the legislative, or the LCRC, loosely acronized that way. The second fund that I think we will talk a fair bit about is the federal money that Senator Rosen already alluded to. And that fund is called the Coronavirus Relief Fund. It's the fund that Senator Rosen spoke to about in the bill that was already passed by the Senate. and it has been established as a separate fund by MMB. It's a separate federal fund into which the $1.8 billion is deposited. I want to pause there and see before I go any further whether folks are comfortable with that, and see if there are any questions before I go on any further.
Members, are there any questions?
Okay, so Mr. Chair and members.
I have a question.
Sorry,
Sure.
Senator Rosen.
No,
No,
Senator Kiffmeyer had her hand up. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Yes. So, Mr. Nauman, in regards to this being transferred from the general fund over into a federal account, does that relieve some of our budget pressures? Does that have that effect there to the good?
So, Mr. Chair and Senator Kiffmeyer, you're anticipating exactly where I was going. The first thing I wanted to do is to make sure we were using all the same terms, because I discovered explaining this bill yesterday, it got a little bit confusing. So I thought it was helpful to keep in mind the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund is the state fund that was established in Chapter 19, and the Coronavirus Relief Fund, which I'll refer to as the CRF, is the federal money. But to answer your question, and this dovetails exactly where I was intending to go next, is Senator Rosen's bill, as amended by the A3, takes previous appropriations that were made earlier in this legislative session for coronavirus or COVID-related expenditures, and changes the source of the money from general fund to the CRF fund, or the federal money. And so the bill as it stands now would then put $333 million back in the general fund effectively. And that's the central purpose of the bill, is to begin sort of a process of improving the general fund. And this, the author felt this was a mechanism to do that. So that I think that gets to your question, Senator Kiffmeyer.
Yeah, it does.
Madam
And I would,
Chair, I have a question.
Senator
Go
Kiffmeyer,
ahead, I'm sorry.
follow up.
thank you. Yes, and so that was what we expected to happen back when we had a finance committee on the federal money coming originally. I just wanted to close the loop and do that, and I'm glad to hear 333 million back in the general fund is a good thing. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kiffmeyer. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Mr. Nauman, my question is whether any transfer from the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund will alleviate or remove any of the current authority that the governor has to, take money from that fund for COVID-related purposes. Will any of his authority, as currently articulated in I believe it's Section 71, will that also will this move take away that authority? That's my question.
So, Mr. Chair and Senator Champion, I think what I'd like to do is pivot very quickly to a walkthrough of the bill so that we can go through all of them. But the answer to Senator Champion's question is there's nothing in the bill as it stands before you that changes the governor's authority. There is about $49 million of expenses that have been previously authorized, and I'll talk about that in some detail in a moment, from the COVID-19 fund that is turned into a CRF expense. But it does not change the governor's authority.
Well, Senator Champion, we'll do that. We'll move through it. And if you have any questions.
So, Mr. Chair and members, with your permission, I'll proceed to a bit of a walkthrough of the bill. We do have a spreadsheet to present after I get through the walkthrough that will probably answer a number of questions, and will, if I can get through the bill, obviously stop me if there's questions, but that might be helpful. So Section 1 of the bill changes a transfer from the general fund to the CRF fund for the $20.889 million that was put into the public health response contingency account. This was the original action that Minnesota legislature and the governor took to begin dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. And this would put $20.9 million back into the general fund. And Section 2 of the bill is similarly a transfer into that same fund. This was part of Senator Benson's bill that was the $50 million for the hospitals and other medical institutions to begin.
Mr. Nauman?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Nauman, if you can hear me, we're having some technical difficulties here. I don't know if it's you or the connection.
Mr. Chair,
we're getting the old water tank audio here. Jessica, if you're online, can you help me with this?
Yeah, I hear Mr. Nauman loud and clear. Are any other members having trouble?
Mm-mm.
No, I'm not having any trouble.
Okay.
Maybe this is on Senator Ingebrigtsen's end.
That could be. I'll work with Senator Ingebrigtsen offline as you continue, Mr. Nauman.
Okay, thank you. Members, with your permission, we don't have a chair, so I'll just continue to say, Mr. Chair. Section 2, as I was mentioning earlier, repurposes a transfer from the general fund to the coronavirus relief account. This was part of Senator Benson's bill. Also part of Senator Benson's bill was Section 3, which transfers $150 million originally from the general fund, and that transfer is now made from the coronavirus relief account. I will offer to members that sections 1 and 2 of this bill may need a technical correction. MMB has advised that blending state money and federal money in the same fund is something that the auditors may have some concerns about. So with respect to that issue, there's no solution to that at this point, but I think it's technical enough that there may be an amendment on the floor to deal with that if the committee looks favorably on this bill. I just wanted to put that in front of the committee. Section 4 of the bill adjusts a transfer, and this transfer, my apologies, I've lost my list, relates to peacetime emergency care grants. It's $29.9 million. Section 5 of the bill is an appropriation for $6.2 million to military and veterans for special emergency grants. Section 2 is a food shelf program appropriation made to the Department of Human Services for $9 million. Section 7 of the bill also originated from Senator Benson's work, and I think was originally a governor's recommendation for housing support. Section 8 of the bill was removed with Senator Rosen's amendment, so that is no longer part of the bill. Section 9 is no longer part of the bill. Although I will bookmark that the Section 9 in the base bill is the $200 million transfer to the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund, and I want to come back to that in a moment as we walk through the amendment. Section 10 is the tribal nations grants for $11 million. Section 11 was the small business loan guarantee program, and that was removed from the bill. Section 12 is new language that handles the $1.25 million appropriation originally from the general fund for the Second Harvest Food Bank grants. That was part of Senator Westrum's original language. It was simply easier in this instance to repeal the language that he had authored and reinstate it in this form for technical reasons. Section 13 cancels all appropriations that were made from the general fund and credits those back to the general fund. That would be more or less technical language. And then Section 14 is the repealer, as I mentioned earlier, of Senator Westrum's language, and the body of that is at the back of the bill. So, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to now move to the amendment. and talk through centrally the operations of the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. Lines 2 through 4 are those deletions that I mentioned. And the primary reason for deleting those sections is that there, as M&B has testified, I believe it was yesterday in front of this committee, there is an interaction between the CRF, the federal money to deal with COVID, that $1.8 billion, and the FEMA reimbursement process. The president has authored an executive order that allows certain expenditures related to COVID to be eligible for FEMA reimbursement. And you can think of this as the same process that that local governments go through when they have a natural disaster. And in that circumstance, if a federal disaster is declared, then the state gets the local government gets 75 cents back on every dollar that it spends as a reimbursement. And in this case, many expenditures that the legislature has enacted would be considered eligible for FEMA reimbursement. So the intention of Senator Rosen's A3 amendment is to remove those sections from the bill that might possibly be eligible for that additional federal reimbursement. And that applies to those sections that have been removed, as well as the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. I will then move to line 6 of the amendment, and to deal with the circumstance that there is a large transfer of $200 million from the general fund to the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. And then the executive branch has submitted to the LCRC, that commission that was established in Chapter 71, a variety of expenditures. Some of those expenditures are eligible for FEMA reimbursement, and Senate staff feels that some of them probably are not. And so on those occasions where they are not eligible for FEMA reimbursement, the amendment in front of you reverses the authority to spend that money out of the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund and turns it into an appropriation from the CRF. And this is where this gets somewhat technical, but if you walk with me on lines 1.8 through 1.11, you'll see that the amendment cancels expenditures authorized by the LCRC for commission action orders number 7, 9, and 11. And those orders are expenditures to the Department of Corrections for dealing with the COVID virus at the corrections facilities. It's the $36 million for rapid and widespread testing at the University of Minnesota, as well as the Mayo Clinic. And then recently, over last weekend, the euthanasia expenditures for the pork euthanasia. So those are the three items that have been approved out of the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund that, under the language of Senator Rosen's bill, would be canceled and then turned into a CRF expenditure. That is what's happening on lines 1.8 through 1.14 of the amendment. Then, in order to complete the transaction and generate the savings, because once you cancel that appropriation, the money still sits in the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund, $49.2 million is transferred from the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund to the general fund. That generates an additional $49 million and completes the $330 million in combination with the base bill that I referenced earlier. Then the last step is to appropriate the $49.2 million directly from the CRF fund, so that those transactions are then again made whole, as if the legislature had originally enacted it from the CRF fund in the first place. There's a lot to digest there, members. I suspect there will be questions. I'll pause having said a lot, and see what questions I can try to help you with. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, I'm jumping in as chair. Senator Rosen, continue,
Oh.
please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just for your reference, we can throw up another sheet here, spreadsheet, but basically we have 65.6 million left in the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund for the governor to be able to appropriate accordingly ongoing.
So, Madam Chair, with your permission, I did neglect to walk through the spreadsheet. I think that might be helpful for members. Jessica, I could beg your indulgence to put up the landscape version first.
Mr. Chair or Madam Chair, just a brief question before we get to that spreadsheet, please.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you. Mr. Nauman, actually, that's a great walkthrough. I followed all of that. I just had a question actually before that. It had to do with the definitions.
Sure.
And I just want you to clarify this for me, please. We are talking about the Coronavirus Relief Fund, that being the federal dollars. Now, is that the same as the CARES Act? I mean, we have seen the feds pass the CARES Act. So I just need to know, is this one and the same?
Mr. Nauman.
Eric, I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Senator Rosen, can you hear me now?
I can hear Mr. Nauman.
I can hear you.
I can't hear Eric. No.
Senator Rosen, I think.
Now I can. Now I can.
Okay, good. Okay, well, maybe it's a little bit of a connection issue. Senator Nelson, that's an important question and one that we've all sort of wrestled with. The CARES Act is a bill was enacted at the federal level and contains, I think, probably about 40 to 45 separate streams of money to state governments and local governments and other entities throughout the country. The bill that the piece of that that the CARES Act itself contains the Coronavirus Relief Fund. So that's just one piece of it, but that piece is the most flexible for states and local governments. It has very broad uses as long as it is used within the dates of March 1st through December 30th, is not assumed in the original budget enacted by a state, and for our purposes, that's the fiscal 2021 budget enacted last year, and is specifically for coronavirus relief expenditures and may not be used for revenue replacement. I think as chairs of the K-12 committee, you're also very interested in some of those education streams.
Yes.
Those were also part of the CARES Act, but they're not dealt with in this legislation in front of you today.
Oh, thank you. You read my mind exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nauman, we do have another question from Senator Kiffmeyer. Senator Kiffmeyer?
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Nauman, in the CARES Act, are there various amounts of money somewhat bookmarked for a particular area? The one I'm interested in is childcare. So is part of this 2.16 billion originally, now 1.869 billion, is there a pot of money that is set aside for childcare?
So, Madam Chair and Senator Kiffmeyer, certainly the state could choose to use part of the CARES Act for childcare as long as it was linked to or a part of the CRF money. The 1.8 that you referenced could be used for childcare, but there is no specific pot within the CRF. What I will say is that there are other flows of money from the federal government under the broader CARES Act that have childcare uses that are more specifically tied to that use.
Okay, but it's not in this particular.
I'm sorry, Senator Kiffmeyer, I stepped over you. We do have more questions. Senator Kiffmeyer, did your question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I just want to conclude that. So in this particular pot of money from the CARES Act, this is separate from other CARES Act money that might be more specific. Okay, that answers it. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, remember,
Thank you.
this is
Senator, Mr. Nauman.
this very important point that I feel like I glossed over. I'll just reiterate, there's about 40 to 45 separate streams. And this is Senator Rosen's bill deals with the most flexible of those streams for states and the largest of the streams for states. But it does not deal with all the others, many of which are formulaic and will by the federal government and are for very specific uses. Those monies will be, are anticipated at this point to be dealt with through the Legislative Advisory Commission process, which is how the state deals with most federal distributions.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Senator Rosen.
thank you. And also to answer Senator Kiffmeyer's question, there was 29.9, almost 30 million on the peacetime emergency childcare grants. That is on page 2.27 of the bill. So that is going to be now basically reimbursed or allocated from the CRF fund. So
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Senator Westrom has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Nauman. I've got a few questions. I'll try to wrap them into one or two here. You walked through the food bank, $9 million. And then we've also got the reworking of the 1.25 second harvest food bank donation that was in the earlier ag bill. Are they going to similar places? And then you also talked about housing. I think you in the first section, I don't remember the number on that one, but is that housing similar to the $30 million that the House, that the Senate had worked out with the House and is in a bill that is sitting in finance as well? Or what are those housing dollars doing different? I'll stop at those two questions for now, and then another follow-up after this.
Okay.
Mr. Nauman.
Madam Chair and Senator Westrom, so dealing with I think it's important to state that there are two primary changes that are happening with all appropriations in this bill. The first and most important change is that the source of funds is being changed from general fund to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, or the CRF. So with respect to your first two questions, you cited the food shelf program and the Second Harvest Food Bank, which was through the Department of Agriculture. In both cases, the appropriation is just being resourced from the general fund to the CRF fund. None of the operative language, with one possible exception, is really being changed. So that the money is for the same exact uses. It is just changing the source of the money. Now, if I can go to that second piece, Senator Westrom, that I forgot to mention before, in some cases, these appropriations were made available for a longer period of time. So beyond the December 30th date of the federal money's availability. And in those cases, the availability of the money was shortened. And that does relate to the food shelf program, for example. The language of the bill originally had that general fund appropriation available until June 30th, 2021. The language now reads that the money is available until December 30th, 2020. And the reason for that shortening of the time frame is because the CRF money under federal law, as well as the guidance from U.S. Treasury, is that money must be spent, and actually spent, not obligated, by December 30th, 2020. So that is a distinction that members should be aware of.
But to that point, Mr. Nauman,
Senator Westrom.
those two amounts were already authorized previously with general fund dollars. So that hasn't changed.
Mr. Nauman.
Mr. Chair and Madam Chair and Senator Westrom, that's exactly right. It just
Okay.
changes the source. It doesn't change the amounts. The
And-
intention here is essentially to give MMB guidance to, and they refer to this as repointing. I think that's a technical term that they use in the accounting system to point the liability of an appropriation against one fund versus another fund. So if this bill were enacted, the MMB would go into the accounting system and create the liability against the CRF as opposed to the general fund or the COVID-19 Minnesota, if that's the original liability.
Thank you. And members, we do have a spreadsheet that Mr. Nauman's going to walk through. I have Senator Nelson with her hand up. Briefly, Senator Nelson, you need to
Senator
unmute
Benson,
yourself.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Nelson, just a moment. Senator Westrom, were you not?
I hadn't finished the second part of my question, and then I had a question about the euthanization.
Oh.
So if
I
could
apologize.
finish.
We'll go back to Senator Westrom. I apologize, Senator Nelson. Senator Westrom.
Mr. Nauman, if you want to touch on the housing question, and then I wanted to just talk about the euthanization briefly.
You were asking if that was the same as another bill. This is the housing appropriation here is through the Department of Human Services. It's housing support that was enacted in Chapter 71. It seems like a lifetime ago, but I think it was about 3 weeks ago. I'm sorry, you've caught me a little short in terms of comparing that to a bill to the other housing bill.
No.
Mr.
you
Nauman,
answered my question. I wanted to make sure that was something different than what hasn't quite been resolved. So
Madam Chair, if I could answer that too. Yeah.
Senator Rosen.
Senator Westrom, thank you, Madam Chair. It's the housing support rate increase that came from the Minnesota Fund Governor's appropriation, completely different than what you've been working on. So
Okay.
all this that you're seeing, and we're talking about the public health response, the peacetime emergency child grants, the special emergency grants, food shelf, housing, tribal nations, second harvest is all was appropriated out of the governor's fund. And now we're just paying the general fund back with the coronavirus relief fund, the CRF. So when we get this spreadsheet up, it'll become more clear. We need to do that.
Thank you.
Madam-
Senator Nelson.
Thank you. Thank
Madam
you,
Chair.
Madam Chair. And just another background question, which I think is going to help also as we get through the spreadsheet. I realize we need to get there. I just am curious on the Total CARES Act, because this might not be our mission today, but at some point, at least I want to know this. Mr. Nauman, the Total CARES Act has all these different funds in it. Today, we're talking about the CRF, which has now 1.8 billion left for state use. I want to know what's the total funding from the feds anticipated from the entire CARES Act, like those 45 to 60 different types. You know, I know about the Education Stability Act, the ESSER Act, the GEARS Act, but there's all these others that I don't know about. And it would be just so helpful for us, at least I want to know in total, how many federal funds is the state of Minnesota anticipated to receive from the CARES Act and all of those underlying funds within it?
Mr. Nauman.
Madam Chair, Senator Nelson, the last estimate that I saw was about $3.2 billion. And
Thank you very much. That's incredibly helpful. And I'll save my other question till later. I realize we need to get to that spreadsheet, and I can ask my other question on the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund later.
Okay, very good. I'm going to respect my author's wishes, and let's walk through the spreadsheet that goes with this bill. Mr. Nauman, we have two spreadsheets posted to the hearing notice. Oh, Ms. Young is going to share the appropriate one. Thank you, members.
So members, this, I hope everyone can see this. This is a relatively straightforward spreadsheet. You can see that this displays the changes that occurred by chapter number. So you'll see under the general fund changes column, all the subtractions that are being reduced. That's lines basically appropriations that are being changed from general fund to the CRF. That's again the $1.8 billion total. So you'll see the 20.8 that I talked about, that's section 1, then the 50 and the 150, and then you can see each individual line items. Then lines 13 through 16 are those action orders that require a little bit more intricate language. Those are subtracted from the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. That value is then transferred to the general fund, and then they are credited, or basically the language requires the commissioner to expend that money from the CRF. And so the total ends up being the $333 million that I cited earlier. So unless there are questions about this one, Ms. Young, I'm complete with that spreadsheet.
Okay,
I have a question that I can't find my hand to raise. So, Madam Chair, on this on the spreadsheet. Actually, this was my previous question, but now that it came up again, maybe this is the time to ask. It has to do with the action orders from the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund, action orders 7, 9, 11. Where are those public? How do we know what the first 11 orders were? Where are those being housed so the public or the folks who are not on that action fund can actually know what those orders are? Where do we find those?
So, Madam Chair, Nelson, it's a great question. We anticipated that, and I'll answer your question in 2 different ways. First, MMB has a pretty nice spreadsheet or a website rather, that displays all of the action orders and all of the transactions that have been spent or are anticipated to be spent out of the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. And that's a useful resource. I will also offer, Senator Nelson, that we anticipated this, and I think Ms. Young sent each of the action orders out in the email for the agenda, so that members can see those action orders, and you can read through what the LCRC was, what resulted from the LCRC approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Nauman, we'll move to the portrait spreadsheet, I think is next on our agenda.
Sure. Should find it myself.
And members, this is available on our committee posting as well. Thank you, Ms. Young. Ms. Young, are you going to share that? There we go. Thank you.
Okay, so members, this spreadsheet attempts to reflect all the actions, and I'll confess that it may not be complete for all the transactions that are less than $1 million, but it reflects all the transactions that I am aware of as of last night on the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. And members will recall that the Legislative Commission reviews those proposed expenditures above $1 million, but is not required to review expenditures below $1 million. So the bill itself deals with only the transactions that are notated LCRC-7, LCRC-9, and LCRC-11. It was the opinion of Senate staff when we were working through this exercise on behalf of Senator Rosen that those transactions could be, were not probably eligible for FEMA reimbursement. So those are the ones that were reversed, and that occurs on lines 22, 23, and 24. So Ms. Young, if you can go all the way to the bottom, members can see the breadth of the transactions and their basic purposes. This information is plagiarized liberally from MMB's reports, and then with a few additions that I was aware of after the conclusion of after the publication of the April 30th expenditure report. So Senator Rosen cited line 58 earlier, where it demonstrates that under current law, $65.6 million of the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund is available. I see that Ms. Rattan is online and she can speak to whether that number is today accurate. It probably is a little bit out of date because the expenditures that were less than $1 million are only reflective through April 30th. So it may be a little bit smaller. The bill itself, because it does two things, it cancels the appropriation or it cancels the expenditure and then transfers the balance out. The revenue declines from the 200 million, or the resource declines from 200 million to 150.9 and reduces the expenditure at the same time. So the available balance for the LCR, for the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund remains the same.
Thank you. Ms. Rattan, Mr. Nauman asked if his balance here was generally reflective of the current fund status. Could you help us clarify?
Madam Chair Member, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, it is very close. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but the report I saw last night reflected 65 million. What I would highlight is we have another request that was sent to the LCRC yesterday. I don't think the actual order has been issued yet for that, and that was for a purchase of a cold storage facility, and that I believe is 6.9 million. So that will reduce the balance.
Madam Chair?
Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
I believe that is already in our spreadsheet.
Senator Rosen.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Good job.
Madam Chair is, okay, yeah.
Senator Rosen, there we go.
Yep. Wondering if there's any questions. Basically, we are converting 333 million and having it appropriation from the general fund back to the coronavirus, the CRF coronavirus fund. And it's very simple. It's, don't know if there's any more questions that need to be reviewed.
And I know that Senator Westrom, I don't see him on video, but I did, as I was trying to move things along, I apologize, Tori, you had a question about the funds for, I'm going to try to find the right word for it. The pork euthanasia. So I don't know if Senator Westrom still wanted to follow up on that question, but that came out of Action Order 11. Not seeing any hands. Senator Rosen, where would you like to go next?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, just to summarize, this is the first step in utilizing these federal dollars, and it's a very logical step, as I said. We need to use these federal funds to take care of the expenditures that we've already have seen through the COVID-19 epidemic in the state. This bill will help our bottom line. As we saw this week, it's we have a serious deficit looming here, and we're, I believe, utilizing the federal funds very well. This is the, as I said before, the second part of a three-step process. Last week was making sure that the legislature is in charge of the money, basically, and receiving the guidance from the U.S. Treasury Department. Then we have this step, and then we have on Monday the third part of this process, which is Senate File 4564, which is the coronavirus fund appropriation for the county, city, towns distribution authorization, and that will be on Monday afternoon. And we will have more spreadsheets for you, more explanation of some of the pressure points coming from the COVID-19 pandemic. And with that, Madam Chair, I saw Senator Westrom was back. I'm not sure if he has another question before I'd like to move the amended bill.
I don't see, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Senator Rosen, I don't see hands up. and I don't see him off mute or on video, so I'm hoping he can take that question offline. Senator Cohen just raised his hand, so Senator Cohen, we'll proceed with your question, and then if there are no other hands, we'll move to a vote. Senator
Thanks.
Cohen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So I had a chance last night to spend quite a bit of time with Mr. Nauman, and so I think I have a pretty good sense of this. I don't know if Dr. Rattan would like to offer any testimony at all. Obviously, we're not in a committee setting where she'd be at the front of the table, possibly, the witness table. I don't know if she wants to offer any testimony about this.
Sorry, Ms. Rattan. Yes, thank you for being here today. Do you have general comments? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can, thank you.
Okay, good. It's a complicated two-step process using my phone and the computer at the same time because my computer audio is not working, so sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. My name is Britta Rayton, Budget Director with Minnesota Management and Budget. I just have some brief comments about this language. I think we all share the goal of moving some of these general fund appropriations to the Coronavirus Relief Fund. What I just wanted to highlight is that given the federal guidance on the Coronavirus Relief Fund and some of the ongoing complexities between FEMA usage and the Coronavirus Relief Fund, we've all been kind of at the fiscal staff and M&B staff level waiting through some complicating details. And so one item that I am concerned about, this bill is redirecting the tribal payments to the Coronavirus Relief Fund. We do have some concerns that those grants were made to tribes before we had guidance from the federal government. And the guidance on the Coronavirus Relief Fund from the federal government is more limiting on the uses of the expenditures than the language that was provided to tribes for how they could use the funds. So we do have some technical concerns there that tribal governments may be using those funds for a broader scope of use than is allowed under the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
Thank you.
But go ahead.
No, Senator Rosen, were you to that point, or should I let Ms. Rattan finish?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Ms. Rattan, do you have an explanation of how that $11 million is being spent, and why is it not being spent on what we thought it was going to be spent when we agreed as a commission to for that appropriation? So I'm a little surprised that we're having problems with it being reimbursed by the CRF.
Ms. Rattan.
Madam Chair, the Coronavirus Relief Fund is just very explicit that it needs to be used to pay salary costs of employees that are working in direct response to COVID. My understanding from the Department of Revenue, and they may be best able to talk about the nuances here, is that the limitations were not that confining on the grants out to tribes, and they could be using it for salary costs within their scope of work that are due to some loss of revenue.
Thank you,
Madam Chair.
Senator Rosen.
Yeah, that. Thank you, Deputy Director Rattan. That is a little troubling. That this is going to be challenged, perhaps, and begs the question of how the rest of the funds have been being used when they're all supposed to be used for COVID related and not a revenue replacement mechanism that the Treasury Department made that clearly for us. So I think we have a little more work to do and perhaps a little more accountability measures too to make sure that these dollars are spent wisely.
And we're going to go back to Ms. Rattan to see if she can comment on this piece in particular, some of Senator Rosen's points, and then to finish your testimony. So thank you.
Yes, and Madam Chair, I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting they're using it in nefarious ways in any way. my understanding is that even as we're seeing, for example, in school districts, when there is a loss of revenue, but someone is still providing an essential service, they may be using those dollars to continue the provision of that service, even if that is not a direct COVID response service. And so I think it's something where we need to do a bit more digging and how that's being used to make sure we're not in conflict with the what I think is a somewhat more tailored language in the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
Thank you. And Ms. Rattan, I did insert Senator Rosen's question in the middle of your testimony. If you could proceed then with your testimony.
Sure. And so the other complicating factor here is we have at M&B been trying to find ways to maximize the federal resources that we're getting to pay for our services in response to COVID. So an example where we also may have some additional federal sources to consider before we decide to use the Coronavirus Relief Fund is on our testing dollars. I know we're in this language moving our testing funding to the Coronavirus Relief Fund. There may be other federal sources that we can leverage to pay for testing as well. So I think over the next week, this will just require some additional digging at the federal level to make sure we're maximizing our federal resources wherever possible.
Thank you, Ms. Rattan, very much. I do see Senator Westrom, and then Senator Newman and Senator Cohen. So Senator Westrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, to this testifier, just on the 11 million for the tribal dollars. If from what it sounds, we should probably have an amendment to tighten up the use of these dollars so they do comply with federal money. I realize it probably can't be done today before we pass it out, but it sounds to me like we probably should have that ready for the floor to make sure it is consistent with those dollars. Would that be a way to remedy some of the concern you've raised?
And Senator Westrom, those funds have already gone out, and they are supposed to, by April 14th, 2020, a recipient must provide a report to the commissioner in a form prescribed as to how they use the money. And so I think the barn door's been opened and an amendment is, and I'm getting head nods from Ms. Rattan saying we might not have the opportunity to go back and fix that issue. We might just have to eat that appropriation in the general fund. But if Mr. Nauman wants to take a shot at how we could fix that, but I think once the money's spent, it is gone. And Senator Westrom, did you have any other questions before I move on?
I do have a follow-up for Mr. Nauman, but maybe on this point, Madam Chair, while Mr. Nauman weighs in, do we have any other appropriations that have already went out the door? Because we are repointing several funds in this. Would we not have the same problem on some of the others if we're replacing spending?
And I would look to either Mr. Nauman or Ms. Rattan to help us with some of the other
Madam Chair.
Substitutions. Mr. Nauman.
So, Madam Chair, maybe it would help for Ms. Rattan and I to tag team this a little bit, because she's going to have a better sense of what's been expended and what hasn't. We've had conversations with M&B at the staff level that there are technical ways for M&B to, even if the dollars have been expended, to make an adjustment from essentially the general fund to the CRF. I don't think that's the primary challenge. I think the primary challenge here is whether or not the expenditure, when made, has been made for a purpose that is considered allowable under the federal law and the U.S. Treasury guidance. And I think the testimony that Ms. Rattan raised was that at least one of the tribes has potentially used those funds for revenue replacement. So I think if one were creative and it were truly only one tribe or two tribes, one could creatively imagine that the others could be converted, effectively splitting that appropriation into more than one piece. That, of course, requires some creative drafting and probably not one we want to attempt right here in committee.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Nauman. And Ms. Rattan, any comments to what Mr. Nauman's saying? I'm seeing head nods. He's usually right.
Senator
Madam-
Benson, no, I agree with what Mr. Nauman is saying. I think it's not a problem to repoint, as Eric noted was our language before, to repoint expenditures at a different funding source, even after the spending has been completed in our accounting system. So we can technically go in and do that. It's more of a question of, was the expenditure an allowable use under the guidance of the Coronavirus Relief Fund?
Okay, very good. And members, we're going to need to move on. So Senator Westrom, let's
So,
wrap up.
Madam
'cause
Chair, just
Senator Newman and Senator Cohen.
very, very good. Madam Chair, so I'll be interested, and I hope staff and Ms. Rayton can look at that as we progress this to the floor. If there's a way to repoint those dollars in an amendment, I think we should do that. But Mr. Nauman, just my question quickly on the euthanization of the pigs. Do we know about how much has been expended for that, from that emergency money? And, is all the money coming from this appropriation, or is some of it coming out of an emergency budget that the Department of Ag would have had previously?
Madam Chair and Senator Westrom, again, perhaps Ms. Rayton and I can tag team this question. I'll offer this, that the request was made of the LCRC to spend, to allow or provide approval for $10.952 million from the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. That approval was made and the action order was executed, I think, on Sunday. It may have been Monday. And so it's all coming from the COVID-19 Minnesota Fund. In terms of how much has actually been expended at this point, I know there was some urgency. I can on the screen see Ms. Rayton searching her computer, so she may be able to provide us an answer to that piece of the question.
Ms.
Okay.
Rattan, I'm reading the order now, but it doesn't say. So, Ms. Rattan.
Madam Chair and members, you're correct, Senator Westrom, that the Department of Agriculture was beginning the spending using the Agriculture Emergency Fund. So I don't have information on how much they have used from that fund. This funding was intended to make sure they could continue that work that they were originally standing up with the Agriculture Emergency Fund, so they wouldn't have to stand it up for just a few days or a week and then shut it all down again.
Okay.
My understanding is that they are setting up contracts, but we don't show the spending in the system until those contracts are in place.
Very good. That was my initial understanding from Commissioner Peterson, that they were going to get started with some money from their fund that we had set up, and then it was shifting.
Yeah.
And now this makes it more clear how that's all happening. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Westrom and Senator Newman. Senator Cohen, we do have one more bill after this. So Senator Newman.
2 more bills, Madam Chair.
2 more bills. Let me revisit the agenda. Senator Newman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 very quick questions, I believe, Ms. Rattan, on the $11 million to the tribes. Do we in fact know that the money has been spent? And by that, I mean, is it considered spent when MMB transfers it, or is it considered spent when the tribes actually expend the money? And number 2, have the tribes been notified of this potential problem, and if so, when?
Ms. Rattan.
Madam Chair, Senator Newman, it's spent in terms of our visibility to the funds from MMB, because the grants have been made to the tribes. So we would show that we have encumbered those expenses and sent the money out. I'm not sure there's anyone online from the Department of Revenue. They are the agency that have made the grants to the tribes, and I'm sorry, but I would have to defer to them about the communication with the tribes to date.
Madam Chair.
Senator Newman.
The reason I asked the question, Ms. Rattan, is if in fact the tribes have spent the money for a revenue replacement, which is not in line with the federal guidance, is there any reason, if they have not spent all of the money, any reason why we cannot claw that money back?
Ms. Rattan and Senator Newman, because this is a revenue issue, Ms. Young is telling me we can follow up. So Ms. Rattan, if you want to give your best answer, and then we'll follow up offline.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm afraid of giving an incorrect answer, so I would really prefer the Department of Revenue answer since they've set up the grant agreements with the tribe.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Newman. Senator Cohen.
And Madam Chair, very quickly, Director Rattan, you raised the question of testing and intersection of this legislation with Minnesota's pretty aggressive testing program. I couldn't tell what you said, if there's a problem or not.
And Ms. Rattan.
Madam Chair, Senator Cohen, I wouldn't call it a problem. We can certainly use the Coronavirus Relief Fund to pay for testing. The complexity is more, how are we maximizing our federal dollars? And so if there is another available source of federal funds specifically for testing, we are trying to understand if we could apply for that source so that we can maximize our federal funds. It's not necessarily a problem if we move the encumbrance over to the Coronavirus Relief Fund at this time, because I think we could still go back after the fact and access specific federal funds for testing. But I just want the committee to understand that through all of this, we are trying to maximize all the federal pots of money where possible. So if there is another more specific source for a purpose, we would like to maximize that.
Okay, so Madam Chair, Senator Rosen, so hopefully if that does become a problem in the future, hopefully we could have some corrective language that would take care of that, because it doesn't sound like there would be any kind of conflict between Senate and the administration relative to that.
Right.
Okay, thank you, members. Seeing no additional hands, I'm going to ask you to unmute, turn on your video so that Senator Rosen can make closing comments and move her bill. We are going to a vote. Senator Rosen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I pretty much have gone through my closing comments. I think we're using the federal dollars wisely. Like I said, we have the third step coming up next Monday on the process of dealing with this, the CRF. And with that, I would move that Senate File 4563 as amended be recommended to pass and place on general orders.
All those in favor signal aye. Say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Seeing none, Senator Rosen, Senate File 4563 has passed and placed on general orders. Thank you, members. And Senator Rosen, you can have your gavel back. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Benson, for pitch hitting, and thank you, Senator Ingebrigtsen, wherever you are. Thank you for checking in also. And Ms. Rattan, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate this very much. We have Senate File 4481, which is Senator Paul Anderson's small business grant bill. We also have Senator Pratt in the galley also, who has been working very diligently on this this bill too. So welcome, Senator Anderson. You have.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have, if we can take up the A7 amendment before I get started, that would be great.
Absolutely. Would you like to walk through the amendment?
Sure, I can walk through it.
It's a delete all amendment. Is that correct?
It is a delete all. Yep.
Okay. Why don't we just go ahead and vote on that? Okay. Senator Benson moves the 8-7 delete all amendment for Senate File 4481. All those in favor, unmute.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is not an author's amendment because this bill has been heard once. He should walk through the amendment so we understand what changes that he's making.
Thank you, Senator Champion. And Mr. Bodden shaking his head too. You're right. Thank you. Okay, Senator Anderson, please walk through the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, and thanks for your important work and address the tremendous needs of our community during this historic time. We all know the stress and the challenges and the dire straits of our business communities that are facing. I heard on the radio this morning that some restaurant experts are now predicting that potentially up to 50% of our restaurants won't reopen. So again, the timeliness of this bill and the relief that it can provide is really critical. So to the bill itself and the amendment, Senate File 4481 or the A7 amendment appropriates $60 million from the Coronavirus Relief Fund in the federal fund to deed for relief grants to small businesses. And of this appropriation, $30 million is allocated to the Minnesota Initiatives Foundation to award and administer grants to businesses in Greater Minnesota, and $30 million is allocated to nonprofit corporations in deeds network to award and administer grants in the 7-county metro area. And in our amendment, no more than 5% of the fund's grants can be used for administrative costs related to providing the grants. Members, an eligible business is located in Minnesota and owned by a permanent resident of Minnesota. It's in good standing with the Secretary of State and the Department of Revenue. It employs 50 or fewer full-time employees and can demonstrate financial hardship as a result of COVID-19. Eligible businesses may receive grants of up to $10,000 to use for working capital to support payroll expenses, rent, mortgage payments, utility bills, and other similar expenses that occur in the regular course of business. And businesses that have previously received a loan through the Small Business Emergency Loan Program are not eligible for this grant. Of the total amount appropriated, a minimum of at least $18 million must be awarded to businesses that employ 5 or fewer full-time employees. This is what we've referred to as micro businesses. And then a minimum of at least $9 million must be awarded to minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and businesses that are majority owned and operated by women. These amounts are not subject to the 50-50 metro and greater Minnesota split. Senate File 4481 also creates a mechanism to pay back the Minnesota 21st Century Fund for funds that were previously transferred to the Deed Small Business Emergency Loan Program. Funds from the next forecasted surplus will be transferred back to the Minnesota 21st Century Fund until $20 million has been transferred back into the fund. Any loan payments credited to the Minnesota 21st Century Fund will be transferred back to the general fund. This bill also changed the budget reserve target to MMB recommended amount equaling 4.9% of non-dedicated general fund reserves, and cancels a transfer of $22 million to the Clean Water Fund from the forecasted surplus because this amount has already been paid back. Members, we've been working hard the past 2 weeks with the House and the Walz administration to come to an agreement on this bill. We are really close, and I'm hopeful that over the next 36 hours, we can come to an agreement and pass this bill next week and really throw a lifeline to our small business owners across the state. So that's a walkthrough of the amendment. Madam Chair, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. And we also have Mr. Mumm and Ms. Fontaine, who would, I'm not sure if they would like to add anything to the A7 amendment discussion. That was very well presented. Doesn't sound like they do. We do have a question from Senator Limmer.
I have a question, Senator Anderson. In the definition of businesses, would a landlord who operates a rental facility, a rental apartment building under a corporate name, would they be eligible for this type of relief?
Senator Anderson.
Are they considered a business?
Madam Chair and Senator Limmer, I'd like to maybe ask one of our nonpartisan staff for help on this one.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Mr. Mumm or Ms. Fontaine?
Madam Chair and Senator Limmer, can you explain again what type of business you're talking about?
The business I'm referring to would be a business that operates rental properties as the owner, but they're also owning it in the form of a corporate identity. Is that a business that would qualify for this type of relief?
Well, they have to have been directly affected. I don't think just the type of business necessarily eliminates them, but they have to show that they were affected, directly impacted by COVID. So I guess if their rental business was somehow impacted by COVID or one of the executive orders, then they would be able to qualify, but that would be part of the grant application process. But I think, they are a business that could apply. They just have to show that they were affected by an executive order.
Senator
Madam Chair, I could easily see where a tenant has lost their job. Let's say they're a waiter or a waitress. They could lose their income and therefore would not be able to pay their rent. I could see where an emergency order would have affected that. Perhaps there's a tenant that has even contracted COVID-19 and unable to work, again, affecting the cash flow of a rental property.
Ms. Fontaine?
Madam Chair and Senator Limmer, I think if they can demonstrate financial hardship as a result of COVID, then it would just be up to the grantor, the Minnesota Initiative Foundations or one of the other preferred or one of the other lending partners to show that the financial hardship that was caused by having a tenant that couldn't pay. It does talk about working capital, though, is one of what the business can use it for. So payroll expenses, rent, mortgage payments, utility bills. But then it says also similar expenses in the regular course of business. So it would, again, kind of have to fit into one of those buckets. If it's a similar expense, perhaps it could fit in there. But it's not a perfect fit. I can't say for sure how we would have to change the language to allow for that. But again, if it was COVID related, that they had financial hardship, they weren't getting rent from their tenants, that's certainly something they could offer as financial hardship. I don't think they're specifically excluded by the bill, but it isn't a neat fit either. And I guess that's about as best as I can answer right now, not being one of the grantors.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Fontaine. Thank you, Senator Limmer. And then we have Senator Franson.
There you go. Hi there. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few questions for Senator Paul Anderson here about the bill. Just to clarify, the bill is the grants would be forgivable, and that's my first question. And then what are the different disqualifying factors? For instance, what if a small business already has a bank loan, an emergency bank loan? I know that there's a program through DEED right now that I know constituents of mine have been applying for. What if they've already received some of that money? And what if they are a business owner, but they're also receiving unemployment? Because some business owners, small business owners, can be an employee under their own business. So just wanted to know if there's any exclusions other than the ones you listed. Those are the ones that come to mind. And frankly, knowing whether that loan is forgivable and how does their accountability in terms of that? Because I know my small business applied for a federal program, and it's not just, it is forgivable, but there's a ton of accountability. It has to happen after you spend the money.
Mr. Anderson, Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Franzen, and thanks for the question. So a couple different things. One, just the eligibility, as I mentioned. So right now, the only situation, if you have received a previous loan through the Small Business Emergency Loan Program, then you're not eligible. There's nothing with regards to other programs. And this is a grant, so it is not a loan that is looking at forgivability. We just go into, it is a grant received, and so it is forgivable. I'm trying to think of the other questions. But with regards to, this is one of the things that we kind of go back and forth with both DEED and in our conversations with the House author and the chair of the Jobs Committee is this eligibility piece. We want to make sure that this is as simple as possible. We try and get out as much grant relief to as many people as possible. We're never going to totally satisfy the need that comes into play. That's a challenging situation because, again, we've got a lot of people that need lifelines, but we're trying to make this as easy and as get to as most people that haven't received that help from this relief fund previously. I'm getting some information about the unemployment insurance. Maybe Ms. Fontaine or Mr. Mum can help me on that one.
Ms. Fontaine?
Well, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair and Senator Franzen, there's nothing in this bill that talks about whether how getting unemployment or receiving unemployment or other COVID-related assistance would affect this particular grant program. And as Senator Anderson mentioned, that there's the limitation if they already did get a loan under the small business emergency loan program that they wouldn't. But there are no other limitations that is included in this language, and that has not been discussed as part of a limitation for the program thus far.
Senator Franzen?
Thank you. I appreciate the information, it's not intended to be exclusive. I obviously know that there's so many businesses out there, and when you mentioned 50% of restaurants could be out of business, but at the same time, I know from anecdotes and from facts of the federal programs that have gone to folks that don't need it or that are publicly traded companies. I mean, this is for small business, I get it, but there's a lot of different scenarios at play that I want to make sure that we that we have good use of this money because people really need it, and those that don't need it and have other help should be given second priority. And I think those that need it first should be looked at. For instance, I don't know, maybe with partnership with DEED, they have better scenarios, but businesses that are actually opening and continuing to be open versus someone who's probably going to end up closing anyway. I don't know how you make that determination. I just want to make sure that some of these scenarios and hypotheticals are thought through so that the money is going to its best use, because there is not enough for folks, as you just mentioned. So thank you for your efforts here.
Thank you, Senator Franzen. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to ask the question. To the author, I have two questions. Maybe I should contextualize the first one. We saw that when the CARES Act was signed and money went out, and that there was a slew of money that was geared towards small businesses. And then we ended up seeing that Starbucks, and we ended up seeing the Lakers receive money. We saw a number of different folks who would qualify as a small business if under their definition. So, and even Harvard University, from my understanding, oh, well, maybe that was PPP. Bottom line is it the author's intent for other corporations and those who own commercial property who might be able to utilize the vagueness of the bill to be able to qualify, such as the example that was so eloquently put forward by Senator Limmer?
Senator Anderson.
Well, Madam Chair and Senator Champion, thank you for the question. Again, I want to reiterate that this is continue to be worked on. Would love to continue to gather your input on this as we go forward. I think the big consideration is the funds will be administered by both the Minnesota Investment or Initiatives Foundation for Greater Minnesota, and then the approved entities by DEED for the 7-county metro area. The businesses are 50 employees or less, and then you get into the carve-outs with regards to the micro businesses, the minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and women-owned businesses. The intention is absolutely to make sure that those in the greatest need receives these grants, and that not large entities. This is for small business relief and for those that really need it. So whatever provisions we need to put in, we will continue to work on that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator Champion.
and I will commit myself to continue to work with you and Senator Pratt and the others in order to make sure that we have a bill that really meets the needs of those who really need it. And I don't want the language to be so vague that some person who's at deed or some other place are presented with a scenario where the bill doesn't necessarily speak clearly enough in order for the intent of the bill to fall by the wayside. I think policy is supposed to be a guiding principle so that our desired outcomes become reality. So with that being said, I did say that I had two questions, but I will just hold off the other question and just ask the chair, and ask the author if he would make sure that we continue to talk so that we can make sure that we have the best bill possible.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Senator Anderson?
Madam Chair and Senator Champion, absolutely continue to reach out. I know I was able to try and send this over to you later yesterday to get some input, and look forward to getting additional as we move forward. Again, kind of the clarification for these are Minnesota owned. They have to be owned by a Minnesota resident. They have to be in good standing with the Secretary of State. They have to be under 50 employees. So there are some definite provisions in here, but we can look at additional ones as well.
Thank you. And members, just as a reminder from Mr. Bodern, when you are speaking, we do have to see your face, lovely face. So thank you, if we can indulge in that. I am actually going to turn to Mr. Nauman now.
Able to see me.
Yes. There you are, Senator Champion. Mr. Nauman, you have an issue with some of the language that it might infer revenue replacement. Is that correct?
So yes, Madam Chair, members, with your indulgence, I just want to highlight, I'm not sure it's necessarily an issue, but something to maybe wrestle with. It's not dissimilar to the issue in the relative to the tribal money in the previous bill. If I can call members' attention to lines 3.9 to 3.11 of the amendment. That language says that grants received by an individual business shall be used for working capital to support payroll expenses, rent, mortgage payments, utility bills, and other similar expenses. That language could be inferred to mean that the money provided by the grants is to replace the revenue that was lost. And that's revenue replacement for state and local governments is very clearly not kosher within the federal guidelines. It's not quite as clear as if it is not kosher with respect to grant recipients. The federal guidance then later goes on speaking specifically about small businesses to indicate that the amount of a grant to a small business shall reimburse the costs of business interruption caused by the closures that would also be eligible expenditure under a federal section of law. So in some respects, I'm trying to highlight for members that we are trying to infer what is allowable expense and what is not. And in one case, the language of the federal guidance says one thing, and in another place it says something else. So I don't think this should be an indication that you change what you're proposing based on what I've described, but more that I wish to highlight for you that we are going to have to thread these needles, and it will be an ongoing conversation.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Senator Benson, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Anderson. As I was looking at page 2, line 29, grants to nonprofit corporations, and I am sorry, I do not know the laws 2020 chapter 7.1 section 11. I didn't get that cross-reference. It might be in here. We have a lot of nonprofits that get state grants already, and so they aren't at risk. And so just like Senator Franzen raised, if you've gotten help from the feds, maybe we should have a pot of money that goes to people who haven't received help. So I just want to flag for you, we do have some nonprofit corporations who get a significant portion, maybe even more than 50% of their money from the state, and then they might fundraise the rest. And this appears that if they didn't have that fundraising success, they'd be backfilling some of that fundraising. And so I'll look into it and see if there's something that we can do to make sure it's going to non-governmental nonprofits or nonprofits whose primary purpose isn't government service, because we do have a few of those who exist just to carry out government grants. And so I just wanted to flag that for you. I'm not going to try to fix anything in finance, but I think there might be something of interest there. Thank you, Senator Anderson.
Okay. Any further questions on the A7 amendment? Okay. Senator Ingebrigtsen, are you available?
I am.
Okay. Senator Ingebrigtsen, would you like to move the A7 amendment, please?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the A7 amendment.
All those, please unmute, thumbs up, thumbs down. All those in favor of the A7 amendment? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Amendment is adopted. Okay. Any other further questions from the members? Senator Benson and Senator Champion still have their hands up, but I think you're done, right? Okay.
That was from before you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Champion. With that, further comments, Senator Anderson. And does Senator Pratt have anything to say, perhaps? He's still on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am still on.
Welcome, Senator Pratt.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I don't have any comments. I think Senator Anderson covered the bill extremely well, and we'll continue to work with the House and the administration to find a compromise. But I think the comments and questions raised today have been insightful.
Okay. Senator Anderson, further
Thank you,
comment?
Madam Chair and members, I greatly appreciate it. This is trying times. We've got a few days left to kind of conclude our session work, and anything we can do to throw this lifeline and help our small businesses is going to be critically important. We got to get it right. I appreciate Mr. Naumann's comments. A lot of things going on with restrictions with the CARES money and everything else. We're being very careful. So we got to get it right, and we will over the next 36 hours and hopefully get this to the floor and provide the relief for our small businesses.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Ingebrigtsen, do you have a motion?
Yes,
You did have a motion. You still there?
When I'm mute.
I'm still here. I'd like to move the bill as amended.
Thank you. Senator Ingebrigtsen moves that Senate File 4481 as amended be recommended to pass and placed on general orders. Unmute. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senate File 4481 is headed to the floor. And you have another bill in front of us, Senator Anderson.
I do, Madam Chair. I always love coming in front of the finance chair and committee, and now I get 2 times at the end of session. This is quite an honor.
Maybe this one will be memorable.
This one will be, and it's an important one, and I know for a few of our higher education members, they've already heard this, but it's important.
Great. So Senate File 3665, Senator Anderson.
Sure. So, Madam Chair and members, Senate File 3665 would authorize the University of Minnesota to refinance debt taken out by the university to construct the biomedical Discovery District buildings on the Twin Cities campus. It would further allow the university to capture these savings from refinancing and apply them to the design, site acquisition, and pre-construction of the clinical research facility, also on the Twin Cities campus. In 2008, the state of Minnesota authorized an annual appropriation to the University of Minnesota to support debt service on the Biomedical Discovery District project. The state took this approach versus an appropriation of general obligation bonds. A few of you were involved in that, I know. The university then issued the bonds and constructed the project, and the state appropriation services the debt. The project is now fully built and functioning as a premier research facility for the state. Today, many Minnesota homeowners are taking advantage of low interest rates to refinance the mortgages on their home. The university seeks a similar approach with the bonds for the biomedical discovery district and is requesting the state's authorization to do so. According to the current capital market rates, the university can save approximately $2.1 million per year in the state's appropriation, totaling $33.7 million in savings over the remaining. I am getting a little crosswise. I'm sorry. This is a little dated. I apologize, Madam Chair.
No problem.
Assuming taxable debt is issued, the university would be able to issue approximately $22 million in new debt in the annual savings. The clinical research facility is a key component in the university's plan to increase the medical school's rankings by increasing patient access to clinical trials and gathering data from patients' visits to improve clinical outcomes. Our current health crisis shows clearly the benefit of clinical research and the quick connection between disciplines. For example, the university's low-cost ventilator was created through an idea of a physician brought to life by engineers. Serology testing is a collaboration of biomedical scientists and faculty in the College of Veterinary Medicine. The university's medical school faculty have quickly launched 4 clinical trials to develop new treatments for COVID-19. We have 4 funded rapid response grants and a broader project underway to test theories for a vaccine. So a lot's going on at the U. The new clinical research facility will connect a broad array of clinical research units and activities from across the university, providing a consolidated home for the Clinical Translational Science Institute and providing new patient-centered clinics that facilitate patient participation in clinical research. This legislation will both authorize the university to refinance the bonds as well as use the savings on the CRF project, thereby taking a project off the university's legislative request list without issuance of additional general obligation bonds. Madam Chair, members, thanks for your attention and the support of the University of Minnesota in this initiative. I'd be happy to attempt to answer any questions on this. I do believe we have J.D. Burton and Mike Volna from the university joining us virtually to answering questions as well.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. That's right. We have Mike Volna, Associate Vice President, Finance and Assistant CFO. And of course, J.D. Burton is the Government Relations. Would either of you like to make a few comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, we're comfortable. Just here to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a question from Senator Champion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the author, it would appear to me that this is a bonding year and we're in the middle of trying to figure out if there's going to be a bonding bill, the amount of that bonding bill, and there's a number of different people who've come forward in organizations, including the University of Minnesota, as well as the Minnesota State Colleges, you name it. We have a number of requests for bonding. My question is whether this bill has gone through bonding, because even though there is this backed debt that the university has, there was an agreement as to what it was going to be used for. Now, because the interest rates are lower, there's a decision or a desire to refinance those bonds. But then the savings, instead of going to the general fund that could be used for something else or entertained by something else, now the U is asking us and asking the legislature to use the savings for another bonding project. Now, that's not to suggest that we don't think it's important and good, but guess what? We would have that same argument from other people as well. So my question to the author is, first of all, did this bill go through bonding? And if not, why?
Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Champion. I appreciate the question. This was first heard in higher education and passed to finance, so it wasn't heard in capital investment. There was some discussion about this. It's a very unique situation, and it may have nonpartisan staff weigh in on this as well. But the uniqueness of this project and how it was done in 2008, it is not necessary, in my opinion, and what I've heard, that it needs to go to capital investment. The restructuring and the refinancing can be used again for another project with the university. I myself am grateful for the university for bringing this forward. They're trying to find a solution. They're trying to look at an opportunity. Not all bonding projects can be refinanced in this fashion. And so the fact that they're doing this and the great needs that are involved, this is a great opportunity for us to capture those savings and put it to other projects. So maybe, I don't know if Mr. Nauman or somebody else could weigh in on the uniqueness of this project.
Yes, Senator Anderson, we have Hannah Grunwald
That'd
with
be
us
great,
from the Senate Council and Fiscal Analyst. Welcome, Ms. Grunwald. Could you answer that question for us, please?
Hi, Madam Chair and members. Yeah, so I could try to explain a little bit about the appropriation that was already put into law with the 2008 bill. This original legislation in 2008 had a 13.9 million amount that is already being appropriated to the biomed research facility. So that amount is being appropriated and shown in the February forecast, and that 13.9 million each year has been unchanged in the May projection. I'm not sure if that's helpful in any way. I know we also have Joan White.
Senator Champion.
Madam Chair, I think I understand the legislation, and I think I articulated with some clarity as to what they're asking. I'm not suggesting that the university is not thinking and this is not a good project. My point is that there's a number of good projects. And Madam Chair, is this any different? Maybe it is, and maybe you can help me with this. Is this any different from when at one time the U.S. Bank Stadium reserves were on the table and there was some discussion about refinancing the U.S. Bank Stadium, and there was going to be this windfall of savings, and there was some question as to, one, should it be done, and two, who should make the decision as to where that money should go? So perhaps that you can help me with that, because that was my understanding, that we had some trepidation around things happening this way without there being a process in place for it to be considered along with all the other projects.
I'm not quite sure if that question is for me, Senator Champion, or if it's.
Yes,
it is.
That one is for you, because we had Myron Friends who came in, and we had a long hearing about refinancing some revenue that the stadium had, and there was a thought that they could refinance those bonds, is my understanding, and save some money. And we had some concern about that happening and who should decide that and where the savings should go. And I think that and if I'm right, and this is where I'm asking you to correct me if I'm wrong, that I believe this is the same scenario. It's just that it's for a small amount of money, and it appears that it's coming through this committee as opposed to going through bonding, because now they are asking to use savings that should go into the general fund and should be a part of a larger debate around bonding, that they're just asking us to just say it's a good idea, which we do think it's a good idea, but without it being compared to other projects and other college opportunities as well. So there you go. That's my question, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Champion, and thank you for allowing us to look at you. The stadium bill, as a matter of fact, is in finance still, with that conversation hopefully going to happen here soon. Now with the new budget projection, I think it's more imperative. Actually, members, this bill is to be laid over. We will not be voting this bill out, and that was the plan. Probably should have mentioned that before, but there are ongoing conversations that still need to be had. So, Senator Champion, I hope that answers part of your question also.
It does, Madam Chair. Thank you. And then I have nothing else to say if it's going to be laid over.
Okay, thank you. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam President or Madam Chair. I could not agree more with Senator Champion. Those were my thoughts exactly. Number one, if there's savings in refinancing debt that has been financed by the state, it appears those savings should go to the state. And then secondly, it does seem like this would set an inordinate precedent for the future. And I just am very uncomfortable with this. Certainly I am willing to learn more about this, but on the face of it, it just looks like the timing is bad. It does not set a good precedent. And I just don't know what would keep every institution from doing a similar type. Well, let's refinance the bonds and then bond something else. So I'm just very, very cautious about this.
Mhm. Well, I think this is a good discussion to be had in the Finance Committee, and this is where we should have this discussion. Bonding is absolutely aware of this, and like I said, we're laying this over for further conversations. I see Senator Cohen has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me just offer a couple of comments. I was the author in 2007, I think, of the university's request relative to the facilities. And I'm not sure if Senator Anderson was involved with that in your prior life with Governor Plenty. Governor Plenty had some questions about the request of the university originally, and then I think in his last year agreed that we should go ahead. We had some discussion, to be fair, Madam Chair, and it was a fairly loose conversation about whether or not there might be the ability to do things more quickly with the university, and whether or not there might be some opportunity to repurpose bonds. Now, again, I want to make it clear that it was a fairly loose conversation. It was never part of the legislative intent or anything. This was considered back when this was done originally. I just want to make sure people are aware of that.
Thank you, Senator Cohen, for that. Your institutional knowledge is priceless.
One of my last history lessons, Madam Chair. And,
oh no, there's more. We all have next.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about pre-Civil War political history, and people will take notes.
That's riveting. I can't wait.
And Madam Chair, if I could just maybe weigh in just quick, I'm really glad that Senator Cohen weighed in, because yes, he's the historian on this bill. I think this has only happened one other time. The uniqueness of how the bill was originally done and the bonding, the way it was done, I understand and certainly appreciate Senator Nelson's comment about setting precedent. Not all bills can do this. Not all bonding projects can do this. This is a very unique situation. And I don't know if there's somebody else that can speak to that, but it's only been done one other time and it's very unique.
Well, thank you, Senator Anderson. I am going to turn to Mr. Burton if you'd like to say anything to this.
Sure. Madam Chair, thank you. It's J.D. Burton with the University of Minnesota. To Senator Nelson's question, I think the unique difference with this and others is that this was debt that the university took out, our debt, that was financed by the state of Minnesota versus general obligation debt that came from the state of Minnesota. So it's a little bit of a different scenario. The only change is that the state is financing it through an appropriation for us to take out our debt versus a general obligation debt that comes from the state. Thereby, we have to come to the state now and ask for your authorization to refinance those, whereas in other situations, we could do it without state legislative authorization. So we're looking at a market that's giving us a really unique situation, an opportunity that we think is going to close on us relatively quickly. And we're hoping to have the opportunity to change that. So we think it is a unique aspect, but we don't believe it necessarily sets a precedent because we're about the only institution that is in a capacity to do something like this.
Madam Chair, can I speak to that issue that was just discussed?
Yes, Senator Jenkins.
Mr. Burton seems to forget that when this appropriation was done, that there was an agreement that 75% of it would be paid by the state, if my understanding is correct. 75%. And even though the university took out the bonds, we as a state are paying for those bonds. And so it's not that unique because now they want the state to kick in 100% to refinance the bonds and then use the same appropriation for not only to complete payment for the intended purpose, but also for a new purpose. So it is not that unique, but it's unique where we would be setting a bad precedent. And if I'm wrong about the initial obligation, he can certainly correct me, but the university is only paying 25% of it, and I believe the state is paying 75%.
Mr. Burton?
Madam Chair, Senator Champion, that's correct. This was a 75% from the state, 25% appropriation to the University of Minnesota. We are seeking to refinance just the 75% portion of that. We're not able to refinance the 25%. So it is 100% of the state's 75% appropriation that we're seeking to refinance. And again, if this is a scenario that the state would deem that those savings should go to another purpose, HEPR, for example, or something else, that is an opportunity that we certainly are open to. We just want to do what we think is in the best interest of the state's tax dollars and get this refinanced at that time. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burton. Senator Nelson, you look like you had a comment.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of to this same discussion point. So the point may have been made that this is a somewhat unique situation and perhaps not as precedent setting as I feared. But the point remains that the state is financing the debt, and the refinancing savings are not going to the state under this proposal. It would be going to the university. So I just do not believe that the savings should be going to the state. And that it just is a key element here. And of course, my interest has been piqued now as to why this happened in 2008. It was such an unusual setting, and I'm sure that I will learn from some of you who were around in 2008 as to why this was such a unique setup arrangement. But it remains, I think, very, particularly at a time of a massive recession here. And to think about building new buildings on campuses at this time, if I understand correctly, the goal is to refinance the state debt and have the university reuse that debt or the savings from that debt to build another structure. And this is just such really a perilous time in regards to ongoing large projects. And I fear for our higher education institutions. Crises accelerate trends, and there's already been a trend for that our universities have been facing for a number of years here regarding how online higher education is affecting our on-site universities, and also the career tech ed things as far as. So I just think that there's a litany of things here. The timing is not good. The savings should go to the state, and then the trends that have been happening in higher ed all along. So again, I'll look forward to hearing more about this, but I want to be clear. My questions have not been answered, and my concerns have not been mitigated.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Senator Anderson, would you like to respond, or is there anything that we can provide assistance?
Madam Chair, no, I don't think so, unless Mr. Burton or the U has anything else to say. I think this is an opportunity. We've got a lot of needs. Sitting in the Higher Education Committee, I hear more than probably any of us of the dire situation. We just talked about small business relief. Higher education is in a very, very dire situation. Next fall is going to bring a lot of challenges. But what we do have at the University of Minnesota is a world-class research facility, world-class. And as they are striving to improve the rankings on the medical school, as they're trying to build more research capabilities, this is an opportunity to do that. So I really, I understand there's concerns. We can continue to work through those here in these last couple of days, but this is an opportunity to continue to make sure our University of Minnesota and other entities in Minnesota, but the university here is capable to rise up to the challenges when situations like this happen. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Senator Cohen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Madam Chair, let me just respond, follow up with Senator Anderson, respond to Senator Nelson. As Senator Anderson pointed out, University of Minnesota is the research university of the state of Minnesota. And clearly, this request, and I'm on Senator Anderson's committee, and so heard the request in the early part of the session and liked it. I think there's even more urgency now with this request, given what's going on. These are the kinds of efforts that enable the university to engage in the kind of research that if it can't take care of, well, I shouldn't say if it can't take care of what's going on right now, because they're engaged in significant research right now relative to COVID. And not just simply what we've seen at what I'll call the tip of the iceberg in terms of the Mayo University testing program. But they're engaged in significant research right now in terms of trying to find what's going to work in terms of therapeutic drugs or vaccinations. So this absolutely dovetails what we're doing right now. And I would agree with Senator Nelson that this is somewhat unique. But my recollection was that the Destination Medical Center was very unique. And I was an enthusiastic supporter of that. Now, that was not done at a time of absolute perilous crisis as we are in right now. But the argument made in terms of the Destination Medical Center was not simply one of economic development for the city of Rochester. The argument was made in terms of what the Mayo system offers folks throughout the world. And that is not to be distinguished from the University of Minnesota. So separate from what might have taken place in 2007, 2008, 2009 in terms of discussion, whatever year it was, in terms of discussion, I think this just dovetails. And I apologize, my sound was out for a couple of minutes, and so I hope I'm not repeating what had already been said. But I would just emphasize, along with Senator Anderson, this absolutely matches university and matches what the university ought to be doing at this time. To the extent we can accelerate that, we should.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. And I think I think the Finance Committee is a perfect spot to have this conversation and properly vet it with all of you about whether the state is guaranteeing a fiscal stream of money for the U to use whatever they want, or are they guaranteeing a fiscal stream for a specific capital project? And anxious to see the ongoing conversations, Senator Anderson, with the Bonding and Capital Investment Committee. So I don't see any more hands. We are going to then, members, just lay Senate File 3665 on the table. Thank you very much, Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And members, we have finance next Monday afternoon, I believe it is, 3 to 5. Like we have been, you're all prepared for a pretty heavy week next week of finance. We have to get those bills out into the floor and well vetted. So I thank you very much for indulging me past the 10 o'clock timeline. It's almost 10:30, but we got a lot of good work done. So thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.